Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Food for Thought. So we're gonna get right into it today with talking about one of my favorite cards printed in Ikoria, Layer of Behemoths. That is Drannith Magistrate. Now, Drannith Magistrate is a 1 in a white creature, human wizard. It's a 1/3 body, and it says players cannot cast spells other than from their hands. Might be paraphrasing. Card is right there. Read it. Read the card. Know the card. Anyways, so as normal food for thought, we're going to be talking about how to play around the card and best ways to play around it and to use it. Now, we're going to start with best ways to play around it. It's a creature. It's super easy to play around. Every deck runs some sort of removal. Every deck has ways to kill creatures, anything like that. So anything from a Doomblade, go for the throat, dismember, Wrath of God, Damnation, Supreme Verdict, any of those kind of cards are going to get rid of the Drannith Magistrate, and you're not going to have to deal with it, right? Right. Now, when it comes to playing with the Drannith, this is where I like to, where I'm on on the edge of playing it. I like it a lot. I think it's a really great card. It slows down a lot more strategies than people think it does, because a lot of the times you look at the card and you think, oh, I can't cast my commander. It specifically says you can only cast spells from hand. So you can't cast spells from exile, you can't cast spells from the top of your library, and you can't cast spells from your graveyard. Now, that's a lot of ways to slow down people's decks, because a lot of times you want to do all those things. You want to flashback spells, Faithless Lootings, Unburial Rites, stuff like that. You want to be able to flash those spells back and get more value and accrue and continue your game plan. You have a lot of Izzet decks that like to play off the top of their library. A lot of the red decks now have access to the effects where they exile the top cards of their library, and you can cast them until end of turn or until next turn. So Drannith stops that. You no longer can cast those spells from exile because they're not in your hand. It slows down everything from people playing Yawgmoth's Will to the creature version of Yawgmoth's Will, Magus of the Will. Magus of the Will. Haha, I figured it out. It'll be on the screen. Anyways, so it slows down a lot of those kind of strategies. Really stops Underworld Breach decks, which sucks because I love playing Underworld Breach. I think the card is amazing. Anyways, but that's just the best. That's what it's there for. It's there to slow down your opponents, force them to play at your pace, which is something decks that are playing Drannith Magistrate, they really want to slow down the game to their pace. They want to play as they want to play. They don't want you to go off and combo really fast. They want you they want to force you to answer their board state, force you to answer their Drannith, and a lot of the times they're going to protect it too. So, that's another way you're playing around. You're playing around Drannith Magistrate. Is a lot of times players are going to try to protect Drannith, so you trying to kill it forces them to use a removal spell, forces them to use a counter spell, anything like that. So it's taking resources away from the players playing Drannith. And the same thing goes to the players playing Drannith. They're usually typically playing him either really early to slow down the game, force it to get removed early so that they can develop their board state quicker, or they're playing it later when they have card advantage and they've really built up their board state and they're able to protect it easier and able to disrupt your plans a little bit easier. But yeah, that's just kind of the way you play around it, way you play with it. If you're playing around it, always remember creature removal is key. Kill it. It dies to removal. It can't protect itself. If your opponent is trying to protect it, then that's just a waste of resources on their behalf. You can look at it that way. Don't look at it as, oh, you countered my spell. It's okay. You countered one player's removal spell. Now you got two other players that are trying to get rid of it too because they want to progress their board state, and your Drannith Magistrate slowing it down. And then think about it as you're the Drannith player. You play your Drannith Magistrate, your opponent kills it. Well, that's one less removal spell that your Haymakers or your commander is going to have to face down. So they think of it that way. It's a double-edged sword. It's really good, early on, and really good at slowing players down and forcing them to react to it. but at the same time, it absorbs that removal to protect some of your other things that you don't want to die. But you know what? That's just the food for thought, guys. Remember, like always, new videos coming out every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. And always, guys, play more games.